Hello everyone, I hope you're all having a great day today, and in this video we're going to be doing a review for The Empire Strikes Back, also known as Star Wars Episode 5, which came out in 1980. I'm reviewing the original Star Wars trilogy in honor of Star Wars Month, or at least Star Wars Day. I mean, it's in May, so that technically makes it Star Wars Month. And to just hop into the review for The Empire Strikes Back, this movie is phenomenal. First of all, the cinematography is great. They got a new director for this while George Lucas was still very in control of the story and stuff. And like pretty much everything in Star Wars, this is beyond iconic. If you've ever seen a movie with a bunch of pop culture references, it's probably going to reference Star Wars. Another thing that really brings this movie to life is John Williams' score. And actually in my review for A New Hope, I completely forgot to mention it, but like in all the movies, he just does a phenomenal job with the score. One of the most iconic and greatest film scores of all time. And as I said, it is visually very good. And if you compare the original version of this movie to the special edition changes, this is the one out of the original trilogy that has been affected the least by special edition. Part of that is because the settings that they chose to put it in didn't really require any technology that would be outdated. And actually, this is also the one in the original trilogy that I think was actually helped by the special edition changes, like adding the same actor who played the Emperor in the other movies and making Cloud City visually more appealing. And they even changed Boba Fett's voice to the same actor who played Jango Fett and now plays him in the Disney Plus series. And I'm a little conflicted on that one because that makes more sense for the continuity, but I do really like the original voice, and I'll put a link to the video comparing the voices in the description if you don't know about that already. And when it comes to the actual story, it is very good, and there's just some deep themes and emotions in here. It's action packed. The lightsaber choreography is definitely better than in the first movie. And I kind of want to dive into the new characters that this movie introduced that have been very iconic. The first one, of course, is Yoda, and everything backwards says he. I mean, it's crazy, but he might be one of the most iconic Star Wars characters. He's just a very good design, and he was actually a puppet in this movie, which was pretty crazy. Everything they did with him was very well done, and he's just a good mentor to Luke. Another character that this introduced was Boba Fett, who is probably my favorite Star Wars character of all time. He's just so cool. Obviously, they introduced some other bounty hunters in a little scene who later had bigger roles in comics and shows. But Boba Fett has got to be the best, and he really hasn't been given justice since this movie. Obviously, in Return of the Jedi, they killed him off, and it was very lame. And then they kind of had him as a kid in the prequels and the Clone Wars. But Disney finally did bring him back, which was very satisfying. But he's just never been as cool as he was in this movie, except for in some of the comics like War of the Bounty Hunters. And some people have said that maybe it was just an accident that Boba Fett was that cool and he never really was meant to be a significant character. But if you look at the behind the scenes, they put a lot of effort into this character with very little screen time and into his design and all of his gadgets and stuff. Maybe that was just to sell toys, but I feel like they had more plans for him. And at one point in a draft for Return of the Jedi, I think George Lucas even considered him having a bigger role in it. But overall, in this movie, we pretty much just see him walking around, but he is very cool and just very iconic. And then the other character it introduces is Lando Calrissian, played by Billy D. Williams, and he's also pretty great. Like Han Solo, he's a scoundrel. They both go back a long ways, which is kind of explained in the Solo movie. But Lando's a lot of fun. Obviously, he betrays Han and then immediately changes his mind, and in later movies, he becomes a hero. But he's definitely one of those complex characters. And pretty much in the story, there are three main places where this movie kind of takes place. I mean, obviously, you always have 3 acts in a movie, but in this case, they're all very distinct. Obviously, you have the Hoth sequence, which is just some really good action, a great introduction to the movie. Then you have the part of the movie where Luke is being trained by Yoda, and in the meantime, Han and Leia are in space. And I gotta say, the romance is done very well. And some people have complained that it just feels like they just had to pick a random place for them to be while Luke was training. But I think it fits very well into the story. I don't think that's a problem at all. And then obviously, you have the grand finale that all takes place at Cloud City. And all these characters just come together. It's very exciting. It's very well made. And Luke has a pretty interesting character arc in this, where he has to make hard decisions and he tries to rescue Han and Leia but ultimately fails. Now, there are a lot of quotes that are very iconic from this movie, But the main one that people always talk about, of course, is the twist that Darth Vader reveals in the movie where he says, "I am your father." Just very iconic. The craziest twist in cinema history. I still get chills just thinking about it. And fun fact, that wasn't actually in the script. I'm sure you've all heard about this before, but the original line was Obi-Wan killed your father, and the only people that knew was James Earl Jones, who obviously said it, and Mark Hamill, who had to act it, and obviously George Lucas, who came up with the idea. And it just kind of shows like how this film is a little bit darker than the first one. The tone is a little bit different, and I think that's why it kind of received mixed reviews at first, but it has aged very well. And I think it is objectively the best Star Wars movie. It's pretty much near perfect. The only nitpicks I have with it is that the space snake looks a little bit weird. I think he looks weird. And it is a little bit hard to tell how much time has passed in this movie, because it's not very clear how long Luke has been training. It's not clear how long Han and Leia have been staying at Cloud City until the conflict comes. So I don't really know how they were going to fix that, but that definitely is a little bit confusing. But at the end of the day, it's very well done. And this was one of the first examples of a sequel that was better than the original, and a movie that ended with the good guys losing, and people had to wait for the next movie to come out to see the resolution. But it's still just done beautifully. So overall, on the quality scale of 0 to 100, I'll give it a 98%. Definitely recommend it if you haven't already checked out this movie, but you most likely have, and if you have, let me know what you think about it in the comments section down below. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and if you thought I was going to make this video without mentioning the fact that Luke and Leia kiss in this, you were wrong. Now obviously they didn't know that they were brother and sister yet, but George Lucas has kind of claimed that he had like the plan for the trilogy all along, but I'm pretty sure some of the details like this he really didn't like fully plan out yet, because if he did, that is really weird. But if you're interested in seeing my review for Return of the Jedi, make sure to tune in next time.